Hi, this is Julian from Pro Tools Expert, and in the A to Z of UAD, we've reached H, which means I'm going to look at the Harrison 32C EQ. Harrison desks are probably better known to the post community than to music, but there are a couple of really famous examples of the use of, especially the Harrison 32, in use in music. Famously, Thriller was recorded using one, and one was installed in Polar Studios, and a lot of the sort of mid to late period ABBA stuff was recorded through one of those. So they've got a great music heritage. That's what I'm using them for here. I've got a demo track recorded by a good friend of mine, Dan Plews, who runs aortas.org.uk, fine songwriter and singer and performer, and hopefully we'll be using a bit more of his stuff in the future. So, quick overview of the plugin. It's a 4-band parametric EQ with high and low pass filters. Very quick tour of the interface. We have power as bypass, phase or polarity switch there, individually switchable high and low pass filters there, and independent switching of the 4 bands of EQ. The 4 bands of EQ are parametric style, but there's no Q control here. They use proportional Q as found on certain other EQs, which means that at low cuts and boosts the Q remains wide and natural sounding, but as the cut or the boost increases, the Q narrows, which means that there's a proportional element to the shape of the curve, basically meaning that the frequencies that fall outside of that curve don't get included, and the spread of the curve doesn't grow as the boost or the cut increases. The first band, the low band, is switchable between a Bell parametric style filter, and with that in the out position it's a shelf, a low shelf. There's no corresponding high shelf. However, initially that bothered me, but I found that actually a lot of the time when I'm using a high shelf filter, a peak would have done. That's pretty much it, as goes this. There are 2 variants. We'll have a look at the other one in a minute. There's an SE, but here we have this on the vocal. So let's have a listen to the track with the vocal in context, and I'll bypass in and out, and you'll hear what happens.
I'm like a dancing bear on a chain. I hear a tune and I remember the pain, and I dance for people who pay to see me step through the bars to the time I was free. I stole this kettle and it's cracked, but it still beats rhythms for days to dance, hoping they will trip on a line that is simple and pretty, in the hope we might move the stars to pity. A cold wind blows through the marketplace. We search in vain for a familiar face. The story's always the same when the year's about to turn for dancing bears.
And straight away you can hear that a lot of the EQ that I've done here is using the high-pass filter. High-pass filters are really important. These are good high-pass filters. The high and the low-pass filters are 12 dB per octave, respectively, and the range is huge on them. The high-pass filter goes all the way up past, well, probably up to 4 or 5K, and the low-pass filter comes all the way down to about 100 hertz. So let's have a quick listen to that. I'll just solo the vocal.
I'm like a dancing bear on a chain. I hear a tune and I remember the pain, and I dance for people who pay to see me step through the bars to the time I was free. I stole this kettle and it's cracked, but it still beats rhythms for days to dance.
On the 4-band parametric section, I'm running this as a shelf, plus or minus 10 dB across all bands, and you'll notice that the bands overlap. This one goes all the way up. Well, I mean, if you see, what I did as an experiment was I got 2.8K on the mid band, 2.8K on the low mid band, and 2.8K on the high mid band, and matched them up using some white noise. And I noticed something that is mentioned in the manual, which is that the legending doesn't necessarily line up with the frequency that you get. For example, on the low band, to get 2.8K, I ended up right the way down somewhere around 1.9 indicated, but it definitely sounded the same as 2.8K on this band. Whether or not any of them were actually 2.8K, I really couldn't say because I wasn't running an analyzer or anything. But this apparently is authentic to the hardware. So that's not a criticism, it's probably a testament to its accuracy. Anyway, overall, I think it sounds lovely. It sounds very nice. There's no graph, which really encourages using your ears. And like any good EQ, it's very forgiving and kind of makes everything sound better. Let's jump over to the other one. Here's the SE variant, as indicated by the blue knobs. This is lighter on DSP. Sounds, I haven't noticed any difference in sound between this one and that one. Maybe that's because I'm cloth-eared, or maybe because they're very good. I really don't know. But this one's running on the guitar, so let's start up some guitars and have a quick listen to what this is doing. You can probably hear that even cranking quite low down, kind of around 2K with a high peak, pulling it up, it doesn't sound overly hard, which certainly acoustic guitars can be quite revealing for that. I'm not going to do an exhaustive auditioning of this. If you want to check it out and you've got some UAD hardware, then download it. I think it's really nice, and I've had a go at mixing a couple of things using just this console style, and I found it quite refreshing to just be tweaking knobs, ignoring graphs, and enjoying the sound of this plugin, which I think is extremely good. So that's the Harrison 32C EQ. See you next time.